In medicine, public health, and biology, transmission is the passing of a pathogen-causing communicable disease from an infected host, individual or group to a particular individual or group, regardless of whether the other individual was previously infected. The term strictly refers to the transmission of microorganisms directly from one individual to another by one or more of the following means. Transmission can also be indirect, via another organism, either a vector, or may involve travel of the microorganism or the affected hosts. An infectious disease agent can be transmitted in two ways: as horizontal disease agent transmission from one individual to another in the same generation, or by vertical disease transmission, passing the agent causing the disease from parent to offspring, such as in prenatal or perinatal transmission. The term infectivity describes the ability of an organism to enter, survive and multiply in the host, while the infectiousness of a disease agent indicates the comparative ease with which the disease agent is transmitted to other hosts. Transmission of pathogens can occur by direct contact, through contaminated food, body fluids or objects, by airborne inhalation, or through vector organisms. Transmissibility is the probability of an infection, given a contact between an infected host and a non-infected host. Community transmission means that the source of infection for the spread of an illness is unknown, or a link in terms of contacts between patients and other people is missing. It refers to the difficulty in grasping the epidemiological link in the community beyond confirmed cases. Local transmission means that the source of the infection has been identified within the reporting location. The route of transmission is important to epidemiologists because patterns of contact vary between different populations and different groups of populations depending on socioeconomic, cultural and other features. For example, low personal and food hygiene due to the lack of a clean water supply may result in increased transmission of diseases by the fecal-oral route, such as cholera. Differences in incidence of such diseases between different groups can also throw light on the routes of transmission of the disease. For example, if it is noted that polio is more common in cities in underdeveloped countries without a clean water supply than in cities with a good plumbing system, we might advance the theory that polio is spread by the fecal-oral route. Two routes are considered to be airborne infections and droplet infections. Airborne transmission refers to infectious agents that are spread via droplet nuclei containing infective microorganisms. These organisms can survive outside the body and remain suspended in the air for long periods of time. They infect others via the upper and lower respiratory tracts. The size of the particles for airborne infections need to be less than 5 micrometers. It includes both dry and wet aerosols and thus requires usually higher levels of isolation since it can stay suspended in the air for longer periods of time, i.e., separate ventilation systems or negative pressure environments are needed to avoid general contamination, e.g., tuberculosis, chickenpox, measles. A common form of transmission is by way of respiratory droplets, generated by coughing, sneezing, or talking. Respiratory droplet transmission is the usual route for respiratory infections. Transmission can occur when respiratory droplets reach susceptible mucosal surfaces, such as in the eyes, nose or mouth. This can also happen indirectly via contact with contaminated surfaces when hands then touch the face before drying. Respiratory droplets are large and cannot remain suspended in the air for long, and are usually dispersed over short distances. The size of the particles for droplet infections are greater than 5 micrometers. Organisms spread by droplet transmission include respiratory viruses such as influenza virus, parainfluenza virus, adenoviruses, rhinovirus, respiratory syncytial virus, human metapneumovirus, Bordetella pertussis, pneumococci, Streptococcus pyogenes, diphtheria, rubella, and coronaviruses. Spread of respiratory droplets from the wearer can be reduced through wearing of a surgical mask. Direct contact occurs through skin-to-skin contact, kissing, and sexual intercourse. Direct contact also refers to contact with soil or vegetation harboring infectious organisms. Additionally, while fecal-oral transmission is primarily considered an indirect contact route. Direct contact can also result in transmission through feces. Diseases that can be transmitted by direct contact are called contagious if they are not washed thoroughly between uses. For this reason, contagious diseases often break out in schools, where towels are shared and personal items of clothing accidentally swapped in the changing rooms. Some diseases that are transmissible by direct contact include athlete's foot, impetigo, syphilis, warts,